lots of us go through life collecting things, looking for things that are going to make us feel fulfilled, make us feel happy. But is that going to keep you happy forever? Is that happiness fleeting or is it lasting? That's what I want to talk about in today's episode of the Self-Improvement Room. Hey, welcome back to the Self-Improvement Room. I'm your host, Christy Davis, and this is episode number 54. Well, some of us are happy, some of us are not, because along with the happiness comes lack of money and lack of time and lots of celebrating. So we're kind of getting into that funny period of the year. What is the secret to lasting happiness rather than those fleeting moments? I've spent a long time in my own life and in my own journey trying to answer this question, because there are times where I've felt happy, but they were never long periods of time. So I was probably more in a state of negativity and unhappiness, but felt moments of joy and happiness, as opposed to now where I am happy most of the time and experience moments of negativity or moments of unhappiness, which I believe is a far better balance. So let's dig deeper into the idea of happiness. I think in a world that often equates success with material wealth, it's easy to believe that happiness is something that you can buy. And the promise of lasting joy or lasting happiness seems tied to having more. So having a bigger house or a newer car or a better wardrobe. And I've upgraded all of those things in my life multiple times. And I just keep thinking the same thing. If I have, or when I have XYZ, I will feel XYZ. And every time it hasn't worked. I'm like, gosh, what do I have to do, or what do I have to buy to make myself feel happy? It turns out it was nothing that I had to buy. It was the work that I had to do, the inner work. And so many of us either don't know you can do this inner work, or they don't want to because it's just not something that they want to spend their time doing, or it's something that they really want to do, but it's really difficult and we struggle with it. Now, if you've ever found yourself chasing these things only to feel empty once you've acquired them, I can tell you, you are definitely not alone. The truth is, lasting happiness isn't about your things. And I get that it's a hard concept to understand, because I see many people in my life, people in my close circle of friendships or relationships, I see those people just accumulating and accumulating, hoping that it's going to change something. But happiness and joy come from something a lot deeper. So in this episode, I want to explore the difference between joy and happiness, because there actually is a difference. And I want to talk about why true contentment comes from the things that we probably think are a bit flowery and a bit fluffy. But I am so used to talking about these things, I don't see them like that anymore. I understand them on a different kind of level. And those things are self-love, self-worth, balance, and boundaries. And I also want to go into the importance of finding joy within the journey. And that sounds so cliche, but take it from somebody who always wanted to get to the end goal, the end goal, the end goal. It's been 10 years that I've been on my personal development journey, And I'm really only learning now, over these last 2 years, that the journey is the happiness, the journey is the joy, the journey is the satisfaction and achievement. So when we shift our focus from material possessions to inner fulfillment, which I kind of feel has a bit of a stigma around it and feels really cliche to talk about, but it's so true. When we focus more on our inner fulfillment, that's really where we discover that lasting happiness, that deeper sense of joy about life, rather than happiness about what we're going to buy next week or with our next paycheck or with our next raise. So let's first look at joy versus happiness and understanding the difference. So happiness is often described as a fleeting emotion, which I said in the introduction. It's a temporary feeling of pleasure or satisfaction that arises in response to external circumstances. So you feel happy when something good happens. Like when you get a promotion, you feel happy, hopefully. When you go on vacation, I just came back from America. I was there for a month. That was happiness. When you receive a compliment, that will make you feel happy. But because happiness is tied to external events, it can be pretty unpredictable. And as soon as that moment passes, the happiness fades, and that leaves you searching for the next thing to make you feel good. It's almost like you're looking for that dopamine hit, that next piece of chocolate or piece of food or holiday that's going to make you feel fulfilled. Now, joy, on the other hand, is deeper and it's more enduring. So unlike happiness, joy doesn't depend on the things that are going on outside of your life externally. It's a state that comes from within, and it's kind of created from a combination of self-awareness, gratitude, and connection to something greater than yourself. And joy can be present even in the difficult times because it's not about what you have happen to you. It's about how you relate to yourself and the world around you. So let's just recap the differences, the key differences. So happiness is external and joy is internal. So happiness is often triggered from external factors like a pleasant experience or an accomplishment or a new purchase. Joy comes from within, and it's a sense of peace and contentment that isn't really easily shaken by external events. Happiness is temporary and joy is enduring. So because happiness is tied to those external circumstances, it kind of tends to be short-lived. But joy, on the other hand, can be present even in the face of challenges. It's a deeper sense of fulfillment that kind of stays with you regardless of what is happening around you. Happiness, number 3, happiness is conditional and joy is unconditional. So happiness often comes with conditions. So I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I lose weight or when I reach this weight goal. Joy doesn't require conditions. So it's an acceptance of the present moment, which kind of means you need to learn to be aware and living in the present moment, and a sense of contentment that isn't dependent on achieving a specific outcome. So you don't need to achieve anything specifically to feel joy because it's unconditional. It sounds like a really nice thing, doesn't it, to cultivate for yourself. But understanding the difference between happiness and joy is is really the key to discovering that lasting fulfillment. And don't get me wrong, happiness can be delightful. It can really be a great feeling to sense. But it's joy that sustains you through your life's ups and downs. So by shifting your focus from chasing happiness to cultivating joy, you create a foundation for that lasting inner peace. All right, let's look at how to create joy or cultivate joy. And I'm telling you, everything that I have learned comes back to self-love and self-worth. Every topic that I go to talk about in the personal development space, in the positive psychology space, all comes back to self-love and self-worth. Now, those things are dependent on a lot of other things, yes, but at the end of the day, from my experience and my study and my research, this is what it comes back to. So, joy, again, isn't something you find outside of yourself. It's something that you have to create from within. And that begins with self-love and self-worth. Now, don't turn the episode off just yet. Don't go, well, that's it, I haven't got that, so I'm done listening. It's something that if you can learn about, practice, and create for yourself, then your life will change dramatically. Your experiences will change dramatically. Your relationships will enhance and they will grow. All from cultivating self-worth and self-love. Now, when you truly love and value yourself, you create the conditions for joy to be present and to grow. Because you stop seeking validation from external sources and you start recognizing that you're enough just the way you are. That is the biggest gift, I think, that you can give yourself. And it's certainly something as a parent that I work on giving to my children, and as a business owner that I work on giving my employees. And as a music teacher, as a vocal coach, it's something I work on helping my students create for themselves. And it is something that I try to instill in my children. I talk with them about it as a parent, and it's something that I talk about with my students as a vocal coach. It's something that I talk about with my coaching clients, and it's something that I talk about with my employees in my business. Because I believe, once again, it's the biggest gift you can give yourself. When you stop seeking validation from external sources and you can understand that you're enough and you've got the answers, you start to react very differently and respond to things in your life, events in your life very differently. And that creates a different outcome for your life. So let's look at the role in a little more depth of self-love in cultivating joy. So embracing your true self. Let's start there. Self-love is about accepting yourself fully and completely, flaws and all. It's about letting go of the need to be perfect, which is really hard for some people, definitely hard for me, and embracing your true self with kindness and compassion. Being kind and compassionate towards yourself allows you to create a space to be kind and compassionate for others, even more so than what you are now. When you practice self-love, you stop looking for joy in the external achievements. Yes, you can still enjoy them. That's the happiness, the fleeting moments of happiness. But you don't have to be achieving to feel joyful. Number 2, the second way to cultivate joy through self-love is to set healthy boundaries. So loving yourself means that you are setting boundaries that protect your well-being. Boundaries help you maintain balance in life. I've never been very good at boundaries. I still struggle with boundaries. It's something that I'm consistently working on because I need boundaries to protect my time, to protect my emotions, to protect my family, to protect my relationships, my work. Boundaries are very important. Without them, people will they won't know what you want and what you need, and they'll take what they want and what they need. And that's not to say that they're a bad person. It just means that they're not aware of your personal boundaries. So boundaries are what really help you maintain balance in your life. They certainly prevent me from burnout, and they prevent us from resentment. And that's a really big one, because when you start saying yes all the time and you've got no boundaries in place, you start to really resent people for taking your time, even though you're the one that said yes, because you think, well, they shouldn't have just asked. They shouldn't have asked. And that might be the case, but again, you haven't got any boundaries in place. So the responsibility does come back to you. And that means you need to honor your needs. And that means saying no when necessary. And that way you can create space for joy. You can create space for the time to have self-care or to spend with your family or to just really improve the quality of your life. Number 3, nurturing your inner world. So self-love involves nurturing your inner world. So that's through things like self-care, mindfulness, and reflection. I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, and I'm really learning a lot about myself. Some good things, some bad things. In fact, I would probably say skip the reflecting. But that would not be very good advice, because it's in reflection and mindfulness that you start to create the human being that is kind and compassionate and therefore experiences more joy and happiness. So when you take that time to connect with yourself, you create a sense of, again, inner peace and contentment, and that leads to lasting joy. Self-worth is equally as important as self-love when it comes to building or creating that joy, because when you recognize your inherent worth, you stop comparing yourself to others and chasing external validation. That's something that is incredibly freeing. And I can tell you that because this is definitely something that I have achieved for myself. After many, many, many years, I no longer compare myself to anybody. And I am no longer needing anybody to validate who I am as a person. It's nice when my husband gives me compliments and validates his love for me and validates who I am as a person. It's nice. It's a nice feeling. But I don't necessarily need it. It's not something that I'm seeking or craving, because I give that to myself. And that is partly because I am living in alignment with who I truly am, with what my values are. And again, that is part of that personal development journey, is understanding who you are and what your values are and what your beliefs are. Now, when we look at the role of self-worth in cultivating joy, we look at 3 things. we look at believing in your values, letting go of comparisons, and living authentically. So my two main values for myself personally are integrity and authenticity. And I try to live by those values every day. Now let's take a look at believing in your value. Self-worth means believing that you are valuable and deserving of love and respect, regardless of your accomplishments or your possessions. When you have a strong sense of self-worth, you stop seeking happiness in things and you start finding joy in just living, in just being who you are. And it's a very freeing feeling. Number 2, letting go of comparisons. And I think my favorite quote is, "Comparison is the thief of joy." So when you are consistently comparing yourself to others, you're really diminishing your own worth and you really lose sight of what truly matters. By letting go of comparison and focusing on your journey, again, you create that space for joy to grow. And number 3, living authentically. This is a hard one because I haven't always lived authentically. In fact, I've always worn a bit of a mask. And I've talked about wearing masks in previous episodes. But there's still some times where I put a bit of a mask on, I mask up. I guess that is simply or purely for protecting myself until I trust somebody, because I think it's important to protect yourself and not be too vulnerable straight up with somebody you don't know or trust. So living authentically. When you know your worth, you start to live a little more authentically, because I know in my situation, I'm free from the pressure to conform to others' expectations. So if somebody says to me, "You know what? I really loved the new Joker. Like, I thought it was amazing. I loved all of the singing. I loved everything about it. What did you think?" Once upon a time, I would have said, "Yeah, me too. I really loved it." While thinking, I couldn't wait to walk out of there. I loved number 1. Number 2 was so terrible. I love music, but I hate musicals, and I wasn't going to watch a musical. So I hated it. And that's what I would have been thinking once upon a time. And I would have said the opposite. Now, I would still be thinking that, but I would just say, "Yeah, you know what? I really loved number 1, but I couldn't get on board with number 2. Too much singing." And that's me being authentic still. I'm not being as colorful because I don't want to offend people, but I am still going to be authentic. And if that offends people, then so be it. I know that I've at least shared my truth, and I hate that saying. I shouldn't say my truth. I don't like that saying. I have shared my opinion, and I've been respectful in doing so. So therefore, I have been true to myself and been authentic. Now, cultivating joy through self-love and self-worth requires ongoing effort and practice. And I'm still working on it every single day. It's about creating a relationship with yourself that is grounded and rooted in kindness, and respect, and acceptance. And when you do that, when you accept yourself, when you respect yourself, when you're kind and compassionate with yourself, you unlock a happiness that comes from within. So it's a joy that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Now, I mentioned earlier about finding joy in the journey and not just the destination. And I found that really difficult to accept in at the start of my journey. I'm like, no, I just want to get to the, the good part. And then the good parts would come and I'd be like, oh, now I want to get to the next good part. And I become so wrapped in reaching the destination that life was just passing me by. I was like on this hedonic treadmill that was just taking from me. And instead of looking back and appreciating how far I'd come, that gap, I was just looking forward, to try to reach that next thing. And I was losing sight of all of the things that I was achieving. I was losing sight of who I was becoming, and I was losing time. I was losing like days in my life, counting down the days to getting to the destination. And that is a common trap that a lot of people fall into. That belief that happiness is something to be achieved in the future. Let me tell you, it's not. It's not there. It's not there. It's there for like a second, and then it's on to the next moment. And I would prefer to count my days rather than my fleeting seconds in my life. I think a lot of us miss the idea of life and the journey. We set goals and we tell ourselves that, you know what, we'll be happy when we reach them. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I lose the weight. I'll be happy when I am in this house or I get this car. But by focusing just on that end goal, we miss out on that joy that can be found in the journey itself. And again, sounds a bit cliche, but I know this from lived experience and research. True joy comes from being present in each moment. That's mindfulness, rather than consistently striving for your next achievement. It's about finding fulfillment in the process of growth and learning and self-discovery, rather than waiting for happiness to arrive once you've checked a box on a to-do list. And I think a lot of us just fall into that trap because we're taught that. I think society kind of really puts that message out there. Your goals and achieve everything that you possibly can, and then you'll be happy. Then you can afford the car, and you can afford the house, and you can afford whatever you want. You can afford to go overseas and, have luxury holidays. But when you're just ticking a box off a to-do list, it's not living. In my experience, it's not living. And the research says that is not living. Now, how do you find joy in the bloody journey? That's the question. Now, I've got 3 things to help you with this. And again, some of this might sound fluffy to you, but it's fluffiness for the win. I looked everywhere. I looked under every rock. I turned over every stone to try to find these answers. And some of them just were not what I was expecting. And in fact, I'm continuing my research journey just in case I've left some stones unturned. So how do you find the joy in the journey? Number 1, practice mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment. And that means being present without judgment. When you practice mindfulness and you really slow down and you just appreciate what's around you, you appreciate the moment, you don't judge it, you just be present in the moment, you become more aware of the beauty and joy that exists in the here and now. And you kind of stress a lot less as well. I'm a really big stress head and I am always living, well, probably more now, hopefully, in the future than I do in the past, but I used to live consistently in the past, rehashing the past, ruminating on the past. And all that did was cause me stress, and it caused my body to live like it was back in those moments. That's why ruminating and thinking about things in the past is not good for you, because it literally creates emotions and feelings that you had in those moments, which then creates the mood and how you feel in the present moment. So being present in the moment instead of rushing through your life, seeking either the next thing or thinking about the last thing, you learn to savor each moment and find the joy in small everyday experiences. And that might be something that is easier as you get older. I'm not sure. It's something that I've struggled to do, slow down and appreciate, because I am like, next, what is next? And I've found that's a very stressful way to live and a very quick way to burn yourself out. Number 2, how do we find the joy in the journey? Is celebrate the small wins. Instead of waiting for the big achievement to feel happy, celebrate the small wins along the way. And I'm working on this myself. I don't celebrate too hard because, and this is a whole other podcast, but if you celebrate too hard, that can lead you to have a much bigger low. Again, another podcast. But I celebrate each win along the way, and each step forward is a reason, I think, to feel more joy and more gratitude. So by acknowledging the progress, no matter how small it is, I'm still cultivating that sense of fulfillment throughout the journey. So celebrate the small wins. And number 3, shift your focus from outcome to process. So rather than fixating on that end goal, shift your focus to the actual process. What are you learning? How are you growing? What new experiences are you having along the way? By appreciating that journey, you start to find joy in the present moment rather than waiting for it in the future. I've kind of always been one of those people who are like, when I achieve this, I'll be able to do this. It's like, well, you know what? Why don't you just give it a go anyway? You don't have to get that degree, or you don't have to get that diploma, or you don't have to have that qualification or that job. Just get out there and start doing it. Now, finding joy in the journey does require a mindset shift. I will tell you that, because I was always chasing the next milestone. And when you do that, that's what you are always doing. You are always chasing the next milestone. So instead of doing that, you can start to appreciate where you are right now. And that doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It doesn't mean being less motivated to reach your goals. It just means recognizing that true joy comes from the process of living, not just reaching a destination. All right, let's take a look at the role of balance and boundaries when we're talking about searching for and cultivating lasting joy and happiness. In our world, which is incredibly fast-paced, it's easy to get caught up in that hustle, constantly striving for more and doing more. But unfortunately for me, especially with the type of person I am, joy requires balance. And when your life is out of balance, when you're overworked, stressed, or stretched too thin, which is literally how I've lived most of the last 5 or 6 years, it's difficult to find the joy in anything, no matter how much you achieve. And I'll be honest with you, I am still stretching myself thin because I'm always wanting to achieve my full potential. But I am learning and working on balance and, again, boundaries. And balance is about creating harmony in your life where you have time for work, time for rest, time for play, and time for connection. It's about making sure that your energy is distributed in a way that allows you to move forward and feel happy rather than constantly feeling depleted. It is a much different feeling to feel energized and ready for the day than it is to wake up already depleted. So how can you create balance for joy? Well, number one, you prioritize self-care. Balance begins with self-care. When you take time to care for your physical, your emotional, and your mental well-being, you start to create the foundation for joy. I meditate 6 days a week, and I sit down and I think to myself, I don't have time for this. I really don't. It's not something that I am wanting or needing to prioritize in my life. Of course it is. But when I sit down to do that, that's what I'm telling myself. I'm like, I've got other things to do. I don't need to meditate. This is ridiculous. And when I don't meditate, I think to myself, oh my God, I need to meditate. This is ridiculous. I really need it in my life because I cannot feel balanced. I do not feel emotionally well. I feel depleted. So meditation is something within my self-care routine that I know is a must, along with exercising. And I really don't have time to exercise every day. So I make sure that I go twice a week to a class with a really great teacher who is really hard on technique, and that allows me to dedicate that time, those 2 days, those 2 hours to exercise and not feel guilty for the rest of the week because I know that I have put in 100%. So that's part of my self-care routine that allows me to feel joyful. So that for you might mean setting aside time for relaxation, for pursuing hobbies that you enjoy, or just taking a break when you need to. And I find that taking a break can be really hard, and I really have to practice that as well. It's like, what do? I have to do something. Oh, the cupboards need cleaning. No, Christy, you just need to stop for a minute. And that's a really important part of balance. Number 2, and I talk about it a lot because I really have been very terrible at this throughout my life. And I believe that comes from, experiencing quite a lot of trauma when I was young. Boundaries are essential for maintaining balance because without them, it's easy to overextend yourself. And I'm sure we've all done it. You say, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll be there. Oh, yep, I'll take the kids to that party. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll go to the work party and I'll bring 3 dozen cookies. And you know what? I'm going to bake them all myself at home because I'm feeling extra adventurous this week and extra community orientated. But when it comes to the day where I have to bake the cookies or bake the cake or bring something that I have baked along to my kids' school or to my workplace, I just think that was a really big mistake. Why did I say that? Why did I say yes? Why did I commit to that? It's because I'm not very good at boundaries, right? So that's something that we really need to focus on. It leads to burnout and resentment. I resent all those people that ask me for anything. You asked me for cookies, why? Why'd you ask me to bring something? And again, it goes back to why didn't I say no? Because by setting clearer boundaries around your time and your energy, again, you create space for joy. All right, number 3, simplify your life. This is something, again, that I am focused on right now in my life. That's simplifying it. Sometimes the key to balance is just to simplify. And that might mean decluttering your schedule. And it might mean saying no to commitments that don't align with your values. And it might also mean letting go of perfectionism. That's a hard one. When you simplify, you just create more room in your daily life. And that creates less stress, and that leads to feelings of joy. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others either. They're about saying yes to yourself and sometimes no. So if you honor your needs and create balance in your life, you start to pave the way for lasting joy. So boundaries are really important. All right, this has been a long one today because I think happiness and joy are very important in our lives. So to wrap this up, the secret to lasting happiness is there is no lasting happiness. It's joy. Happiness is fleeting and it is external, but it isn't found in your things or external achievements. It's found within you, and it's in the way that you relate to yourself and the world around you. So by cultivating joy through self-love, self-worth, through balance and boundaries, you create a foundation for true fulfillment. Remember, joy isn't something that you achieve once when you reach a certain milestone. It's something that you get from the moment. It's about finding contentment in the journey. And I know that's hard, but when you start to do that, life changes. Instead of consistently chasing that next goal, when you shift your focus from external to internal, you create a whole new world for yourself. You create a whole new life. And it's then that you start to enjoy life's many, many, many pleasures, not just the ones you're chasing. All right, we talk about this more in the Self-Improvement Room Facebook community, which we will leave a link for you, and hopefully you can join us there. And you can talk about all of the things that you struggle with, or you can give some tools or tips that you have found work for you when it comes to happiness and joy. All right, until next time, until next episode, stay safe and stay well.